Nebuchadnezzar was the best-known and powerful emperor of the Babylonian Empire. He was in power for about 43 years. Nebuchadnezzar was the son of Nabopolassar, who had also been king of Babylon before him. In ancient history, Nebuchadnezzar is known as Nebuchadnezzar II. The meaning of the name Nebuchadnezzar raises some doubts among scholars. The best suggestions say that Nebuchadnezzar means I need to protect the borders, or that I protect my crown. Nebuchadnezzar succeeded his father, Nabopolassar, on the throne of Babylon and reigned between 604 and 562 BC. Before taking the throne, Nebuchadnezzar, as heir prince, served as commander of the Babylonian army in some military offensive. His father was the founder of the Chaldaic dynasty, who, taking advantage of the weakening of Syria, managed to become king of Babylon in 626 BC. He also managed to destroy Nineveh and then advance against Iran. After Syria fell, the Egypt of Pharaoh Necho II came to dominate Judah completely, including naming and distinguishing Jewish rulers as he pleased. Finally, in June 605 BC, the Egyptian forces were defeated in Carchemish by the hitherto Prince Nebuchadnezzar. But in August 605, Nabopolassar died and Nebuchadnezzar paralyzed the campaign that was leading and crossed the desert to take over the throne of Babylon on September 6, 605. Here it is worth mentioning that the city of Babylon reached great prestige and power in approximately 1850 BC and then declined. It was then with Nebuchadnezzar, more than 1,000 years later, that she recovered all her glory. For this reason, the empire led by Nebuchadnezzar is known as the Neo-Babylonic Empire. Still in 605 BC, after defeating the Egyptians in Carchemish, Nebuchadnezzar advanced against Jehoiakim, king of Judah. This was the first of 3 Babylonian invasions against Judah, and it was also on this occasion that Daniel, Ananias, Mishael, and Azarias were taken captive by Nebuchadnezzar. Jehoiakim then submitted to King Nebuchadnezzar and was temporarily loyal to him. However, after 3 years, King Jehoiakim rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar and transferred his loyalty to the Egyptians, despite the constant warnings of the prophet Jeremiah. It was then that, in 597 BC, Nebuchadnezzar marched against Palestine and surrounded the city of Judah in the second Babylonian invasion against Judah. At the time, Nebuchadnezzar captured King was in power only 3 months after his death father, the rebellious Jehoiakim. Jehoiakim's place, King Nebuchadnezzar named Mattanias, who was renamed Zedekiah. Then he deported to Babylon the deposed king, Joachim, along with all the Jews who could try to promote a rebellion. Nebuchadnezzar also plundered the Temple of Solomon and captured a huge spoil of war. Zedekiah remained loyal to Nebuchadnezzar for a while, but then also rebelled by giving in to the pressures of the people. It is worth mentioning that often Jeremiah advised the people to stay away from the rebellion. Interestingly, during this period, a false prophet named Ananias prophesied that within 2 years, all captives would return from the Babylonian captivity. Jeremiah denounced this false prophecy and warned the people that the Lord had revealed to him that exile in Babylon would be quite prolonged. Even after many advice from the Lord's prophets, Zedekiah finally rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar. Then, in approximately 587 BC, Nebuchadnezzar began to siege Jerusalem. The city endured the Babylonian siege for a while, until it fell completely under the rule of the Nebuchadnezzar kingdom. At that time, there was another great deportation of captives for Babylon, leaving behind only the poorest people. Jerusalem was devastated, and the temple destroyed. The rebel king Zedekiah was captured by Nebuchadnezzar, who forced him to attend the execution of his own children before he had blinded and being taken to Babylon, where he died. After destroying Jerusalem, Nebuchadnezzar appointed another Jewish governor, Gedaliah, who was later murdered due to another conspiracy against Babylonian rule over Judah. King Nebuchadnezzar also led several offensives against other nations, such as Tyre in 585 BC and against Egypt in approximately 568 BC. King Nebuchadnezzar was not only a major military strategist, but was also an important builder while at the head of the empire. Archaeological expeditions have already proved that King Nebuchadnezzar has transformed Babylon into a very imposing city. At the same time that the city's military defenses were fortifying, Nebuchadnezzar also embellished Babylon. He restored many temples in the cities that were under his government, and built an avenue that cut Babylon for the Marduk procession, a Babylonian pagan god. Nebuchadnezzar also built new channels to irrigate the city, and its palace was splendid. Undoubtedly, its most famous and controversial construction are the suspended gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. These gardens consisted of a set of trees planted on high sidewalks supported by large pillars that simulated a mountainous region. It is believed that Nebuchadnezzar did this as a gift to his wife Amytis, who was from a mountainous region. However, there is a lot of discussion about the real existence of this garden. The reign of Nebuchadnezzar composes the historical context for much of the books of the prophets Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel. In fact, the latter provides us with a lot of information about who was Nebuchadnezzar. Prophet Daniel himself played an important role in his government, and was one of the prominent people in Babylon, as well as your friends Ananias, Mishael, and Azarias. In the biblical narrative, we realize that King Nebuchadnezzar was an instrument in the hands of God, which he used to punish nations, including the people of Judah. In the book of Jeremiah, for example, for more than once God calling Nebuchadnezzar of his servant. This does not mean that Nebuchadnezzar was a devout servant to the Lord. On the contrary, he was a pagan king, but he had been designated by God to fulfill an agent role of his judgment against the unbelieving nations. Religiosity paying King Nebuchadnezzar can be clearly perceived in the episode in which he condemned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to the burning furnace after the 3 young Hebrews denied worship of the statue he had built. After the supernatural deliverance given by God to the 3 young people, Nebuchadnezzar appears in the biblical text recognizing that those men were servants of the Most High God. However, this statement did not mean a conversion, only that he recognized that the God of those men was superior to other deities. That is, there was no concept of monotheism by Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel's book also describes the dreams that King Nebuchadnezzar had. The first dream is recorded in Daniel chapter 2, where the king dreamed of a large statue made of various materials, such as gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay. This dream referred to the rise and fall of world powers, but above all, the way God was leading history according to his purposes. The dream disturbed the king, and he summoned the wizards and charming so that they could reveal and interpret the dream, since he did not tell the content of his own dream, most likely because he did not remember him. Daniel, demonstrating that he was greatly blessed by God, was the only one capable of revealing and interpreting the king's dream. This dream occurred in the 2nd year of his reign. The second dream is recorded in Daniel chapter 4, and it occurred in the 43rd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, when he was at the height of his power. He dreamed of a large tree being cut. Once again, Daniel, used by God, interpreted the king's dream, which meant that he would be punished by God. Time of madness, due to his pride. Then, in Daniel chapter 4, we are informed that King Nebuchadnezzar has gone through a period of madness as a consequence of his pride. Previously, he had been warned by the prophet Daniel about the mistakes he was making, but the warning did not take effect. God punished King Nebuchadnezzar in a period of 7 times of madness, where during this period he behaved like an animal. That is, he believed he was an animal. Scholars classify this disease as a possible severe case of clinical lycanthropy. After the time determined by God, King Nebuchadnezzar covered his understanding and glorified the Lord. Although there is a lot of archaeological material in Babylonian literature of the Nebuchadnezzar king, there is a lack of records about the last part of his reign. What is known is that Nebuchadnezzar died between August and September 562 BC, approximately 70 years old. King Nebuchadnezzar was succeeded by his son, Evil Merodach, who reigned for only 2 years, and shortly thereafter the Babylonian Empire declined, finally falling before the Persians.
My friend, making it to the end is no small thing. It shows you cared enough to go beyond the surface. If this touched you in any way, subscribe, comment your city and country, and share it with someone who might benefit from these ideas. Thanks, a big hug, and see you in the next video.